Welcome everyone to the 2015 CampingWorld.com 500 at Talladega race review, where I recap what went on before the race, during the race, and after the race. And this time, I think in this race review, there's not going to be maybe as much like fact and so much. On lap 145, I think there's going to be more like opinion. And I think things may not be as organized, so don't be surprised if you realize that. The reason why I'm doing this is just because this race, I think you'll understand why I'm doing this way, especially if you watch the race that happened, a race that finished about less than 2 hours ago as of me doing this recording. So heading into this race, Talladega, the chase, elimination race, and an even closer, maybe not closer, but tighter points battle between the drivers who are safe and the drivers that are below the cut line than last season. And to me, I had a feeling that things were going to get crazy, things were going to get ridiculous, and we're going to have some high emotions and several different opinions from, maybe not from drivers, but from fans. And there were a couple of different levels of emotions, frustrations, etc. from the drivers as well. But I'll get into that later on. And heading into this race, NASCAR, one of the most talked about things was how an attempt, as a safety measure, NASCAR decided to reduce the green-white-checkered from 3 attempts to 1 attempt. And this, I think one of the biggest influences was because of Austin Dillon's violent wreck. But the thing is, that wasn't on multiple green-white-checkers. That was actually on the very first green-white-checkered. And the thing is, I don't think that green-white-checkers exactly cause wrecks. I think drivers cause these wrecks, because to me, there have been I think at least a couple or heck even probably several times where we did have a green-white-checkered at Daytona and Talladega, and everyone was able to come out live. And to me, I think especially after this weekend, I think I would. Obviously, I don't want to see anyone get hurt, and the thing is, I don't want to see wrecks like Austin Dillon's wreck. But the thing is, fine, maybe I need to reword this. I'm not a fan of races in there caution, but I'm also not a fan of seeing wrecks like that. I just think that NASCAR needs to understand that whether it's 1 attempt, 3 attempts, or no green-white-checker is needed, this still could happen. A good example of that is actually this race 2 years ago, where the final green flag run actually lasted for just a little more than 100 laps, and coming off of the backstretch on the final lap, Austin Dillon got clipped by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Austin Dillon back in front of the field and actually gets lifted up in the air, high up in the air by Casey Mears, and actually comes pretty close to making contact with the catch fence. And even though that wreck was not as violent as the wreck we saw at the very end of the 4th of July Daytona race, I think to me that wreck is an example about how those types of wrecks can happen under any circumstance. But I doubt NASCAR is going to change it back to green-white-checkers or make a new rule anytime in the future. And a couple other things to make mention. Kurt's contract, Kurt Busch and Stuart Haas Racing renewed the contract, and so Kurt Busch, they did not say whether it's going to be 2018 or 2020. The thing is, Kurt Busch is going to be back for this team at least for the next few years. That's my prediction. And I think as a new sponsor is coming on board for I think at least half of the season, and it's going to be Monster. And our people are going to call it Monster Energy. Also, there have been some rumors that Justin Allgaier, who does not have a Sprint Cup ride, he might go back to the Xfinity Series driving for Virginia Motorsports. And if you remember, back at Dover, it was announced that Clint Boyer is going to be driving for HCAM Motorsports in the 51 car next year. There were a couple of warnings. Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Matsumoto, and Dale Hunter all received warnings, back-to-back warnings for Blaney and Earnhardt. And then we had practice. Greg Biffle tops opening practice. Brad Keselowski wins the second practice, and Jeff Gordon gets his 4th pole over the year, most since 2008. And this is and 3 out of his 4 poles have come at super speedways. Remember, he won the pole in the Daytona 500, and both poles in the Talladega race. His other pole actually broke the Las Vegas Motor Speedway track qualifying record. So four poles, and to me, I think that once again got more people talking about Jeff Gordon as a contender to win this weekend. And actually, before the race started, I actually wrote in my notes, just for maybe like laughs, just to sort of like entertain myself. Let the crapshoot begin, because to me that's sort of what Talladega is, especially with a Talladega race being in the chase. You can't control your destiny that much as opposed to the other races in the chase. But anyway, I'm gonna now. I guess I could give my opinion on most of the race itself. I think one word to describe the early portions, but maybe even most of the race was impressive. The first 132 laps, green flag, no cautions whatsoever. And then the first caution came out for Justin Allgaier blowing up, and then the second green flag run lasted 45 laps from lap 140 to lap 184, and then the second caution came out for McMurray blowing up as well. And the thing is, the reason why I think that is impressive is like there are a couple things that I think make that impressive. 132 consecutive laps of green flag racing, that beats the record set by Dover back in the spring, which lasted for 109 laps. And B, I think that because this is Talladega and because of the pack racing, and in fact there were even a couple of close moments early on that I caught. For example, Gordon and Logano tried to go 4 wide and they almost did not make it. And a couple other moments like that. And when I think about like super speedway racing, normally having a lot of like crashes, including the infamous big one, it was just very impressive and amazing that they were able to go that long on the first green flag run, and heck, even go that long on the second green flag run. We almost became pretty close to having a race that had that was very clean, and yet at the same time, still, I think in my opinion, pretty good racing for Talladega. I still think that restricted plate racing is not exactly the same as it was maybe late 90s and maybe 2000s. But to me, I still thought the racing was for the most part pretty good. And the thing is, there were obviously, even during green flag runs, there were still quite a bit of, I guess you could say, dramatic moments. One of the first ones I can think about was sort of how Chaser Martin Truex Jr. After I believe it was either the first green flag pit stop or the second green flag pit stop, he lost the lead pack. Did not get, and it wasn't because of the penalty. He just either had something go wrong on pit road or it was just bad timing. And the thing is, he actually went a lap down, and towards the end of the 132 and then towards the end of the 132 green flag run, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Penalized for men going over the wall. And the thing is, before he was penalized, he was actually leading the race, did not fall a lap down. And in fact, the first caution, because of Justin Allgaier blowing up, it really saved his chances. And in fact, it also got Martin Truex Jr. back on the lead lap. And the thing is, I guess other moments to point out, Hendrick Motorsports, they qualified first, second, third, and fifth, and there were at least a couple times throughout the race where all 4 cars were 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Hendrick Motorsports, I kind of think that like Hendrick Motorsports is now all of a sudden like this decade's DEI in a way, or at least this year's DEI when it comes to how strong the organization has been on these plate tracks. And the thing is, there were also a couple. I mean, the thing is, like, the coverage, the NBC coverage. The thing is, there was still a lot of focus on the chasers, which I think was maybe a little bit disappointing, especially with Talladega, and because Talladega, it gives viewers the chance to see many drivers that are not up front normally, for example, such as Michael McDowell, Cole Witt, David Gillen, and yet they still couldn't really get, I think, the time that I think they had deserved. The thing is, there were a couple of those types of drivers running up front. I think probably out of all of them, David Gillen probably made the most noise. The most noise. He led 2 laps. The thing is, he was running up front through a good portion of the entire race. And the thing is, also this moment actually almost went unnoticed, but actually Ryan Blaney, after running good until he was running good throughout most of the race until he had an engine failure on lap 184. But the thing is, it wasn't, I guess, significant enough to bring out caution, or Ryan Blaney knew it was going to happen, and so he was able to pull off the racetrack just in time. And then on the second green flag run, some pretty interesting things were happening. First of all, Kyle Busch, because of strategy, I think Kyle Busch and many others took fuel only, and that allowed Kyle Busch to lead the race. And before that, it was like Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Larson, and several other drivers up front. And eventually, Dale Earnhardt Jr., he was able to restart maybe around 20th, and there was only a matter of time, and it took about maybe like less than like 15 or I think in less than 20 laps, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was able to get himself back to the lead. And the thing is, the way he did it was definitely, in my opinion, pretty impressive. And he also did a great job at being able to block both lanes. Whether the car was Kyle Busch or whether the car was, or not the car, or whether the driver was Logano or Keselowski. And Junior once again shows why he is just the master of super speed racing, especially as of late. But and the thing is, one important thing to remember. None of the drivers can make it on pit road, and so the thing is, they all had to pit. And the thing is, after the cycle of pit stops, which happened from like lap 170 to lap 173, a couple things happened. First of all, Dale Earnhardt Jr. because he smoked the tires for about the third time entering the pits, it cost him the lead. And the thing is, when he smoked the tires, it actually caused the team to actually have to change tires when other drivers decided to take fuel. And the thing is, there wasn't a whole. And the thing is, in the race, I didn't have a whole lot of like different strategies. There was one driver that I decided to take a huge risk. That driver was Greg Biffle. And the thing is, I think this might be a good example on maybe the coverage be focused a lot, but the chasers, they showed Greg Biffle as the leader, but yet there was not a whole lot of talk about Greg Biffle. I mean, I know Biffle's not in the chase, but the thing is, I felt like that maybe he deserved more talk for what he was actually doing. Because the thing is, I think Biffle actually took one of the biggest gambles of the season. And the thing is, it almost paid off. And to me, I actually was hoping, at the second caution, which came out for McMurray with about like 4 to 5 laps to go, didn't happen, because I thought, because I actually really wanted to see Biffle win the race, because the thing is, A, it would have been probably the upset victory of the year, and B, it would just help him in that Roush Fenway organization, which for the most part they've had a very struggling season, and if they got a win, I think it definitely would have helped a lot. And I think it's also for Biffle, who I think doesn't really have that many years left in him anyway. I think it would have been cool just to see him get a win as well, because who knows, that victory could be his last victory ever. But unfortunately, it did not happen because McMurray blew up, and I think he blew up actually in the middle of the pack, and I actually thought, and watching it live, I thought because it happened in the middle of the pack, it might cause a big wreck, but everyone did a nice job to avoid it. And the thing is, this would eventually put us in a situation where we were only gonna have one attempt at green-white-checkered, like it was, like it used to be from about like 2005 to 2009. And the thing is, unfortunately, Biffle was not able to stretch it. He had to pit at like 189. And the thing is, which is one lap over the advertised distance. But obviously, like Biffle, I think was able to save some fuel during the caution laps. So who knows? Maybe he would have made it. Maybe he wouldn't. But that was sort of at least for me to have to watch. And eventually, this put us in a situation to where after battling side by side, or at least trying to create a battle for the lead. Logano first, Junior second, Brad Keselowski third, Jeff Gordon fourth. And the thing is, Logano chose the high side, Junior chose the inside, and so that left Keselowski third on the bottom, Jeff Gordon fourth on the top. And the thing is, obviously, the 88 and 24 are teammates, the 22 and 2 are teammates as well, Penske versus Hendrick. And the thing is, I think Logano chose the high side because the thing is, like, you know, like, I think Logano chose the high side just to simply prevent any chance from the two Hendrick teammates working together. But then again, at the same time, Logano would have had his teammate Keselowski on the bottom as well. But I think like Logano was trying to prevent Junior from having any advantage whatsoever, because I think Junior had the best car of the race. You know, and I just mentioned some of the reasons why he did. And so, first attempt at green-white-checkered. Green flag in the air, on lap 195, but no way! All of a sudden they're spinning. Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Larson goes around, Casey Kanan gets some damage, and so the caution comes out. But the thing is, that caution did not end the race. NASCAR says that attempt did not count, which honestly I think took a lot of us by surprise. NASCAR made that call, but the thing is, apparently, I guess NASCAR says that it is a rule. But the thing is, I kind of would have wished they would have said the rule. They would have said the rule earlier, because the thing is, I'm sure a lot of people don't know that. In fact, Kyle Petty said in the NASCAR America post race show that he didn't know the rule himself. And the thing is, there were a couple of drivers, notably Logano, that were upset with that. What happened was that, to me, like, they eventually got checked up, which has happened at least once. There hasn't at least one time that has happened. But to me, I think this was probably the most frustrating. I think this was probably, at least in my opinion, the most frustrating part to watch, because the thing is, I don't think that caution was necessary. Because the thing is, what happened was, to me, like, look, Johnson and Larson quickly got their cars straightened out. And the thing is, you know, the two didn't crash into each other. There wasn't. It didn't look like that anyone, like, you know, was blowing up or leaking oil. Unless someone wants to tell me, or unless I find something later that shows that. I just don't think the caution was necessary. Because the thing is, even though Johnson and Larson would have finished very, very poorly, I just still feel like that caution just did not need to come out. And I think that was probably the most frustrating moment. And so basically, we now have a second. We now, I guess you could call it a second attempt at green-white-checkered. And the thing is, oh my God, where am I gonna start? I don't have any like YouTube videos. I don't have any like YouTube video. I don't have any YouTube video. Sorry, I do not have any YouTube video to watch. So I'm gonna try to recite this from my head. Harvick, who restarted mid-pack, but had reported for the past, I think, like like I think like 10, 20 laps that he was having some sort of like engine issue or whatever. And the thing is, it got worse. The closer we got to the checker flag, and the thing is, Harvick, on the attempt that would lead to Johnson and Larson spinning on the front stretch, Harvick actually pulled out of line pretty early. The thing is, on this final attempt at green-white-checkered, Harvick for some reason decided to stay in line for a little bit more longer. And the thing is that eventually, as we come to the green flag, Bain and a couple others decided to go to the high side. And the thing is, Harvick also goes out at the same time. The two of them make contact. Bain goes down into the field and eventually creates this huge wreck on the start-finish line. And eventually they have to throw the caution. All the cars involved, and I'm reading this off of Racing Reference: Denny Hamlin, Michael McDowell, Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, David Gilliland, Kevin Harvick, Dan Patrick, Austin Dillon, Sam Horst Jr., Trevor Bayne, and Alex Bowman. I think Bobby Labonte was also involved in the wreck as well, and maybe a couple other drivers. And the thing is, because drivers like Denny Hamlin were stopped on the racetrack, on fire, etc., NASCAR had to throw the caution. There wasn't any way they were getting out of that, and I think that if you think that NASCAR should have let them race back, that just would have been very dangerous. And the thing is, obviously, many fans. I think many fans were upset that the caution came out because this is actually like both races this weekend, truck race and cup race, both ended under caution. Personally, I think that if I ran NASCAR, I would had I think I would keep. I think I would have kept 3 attempts just simply. Just simply the fact that I think I just think that the race fans deserve to see a race end. I just think NASCAR fans, maybe not NASCAR, maybe not exactly, maybe not just NASCAR fans, but I think that anyone who tunes in to watch a race, I think that they should see the race, or they deserve to see the race end under green. And I think probably the best way to do that is to take 3 attempts, or this could be an alternative, or this could be an alternative idea. Extend the green-white-checkered from 2 laps to 3 laps, because the thing is, I almost feel like 2 laps may not be enough, especially at a plate track, in my opinion. But anyway, let's get back to the show. And the thing is, because the caution came out, they had to freeze the field based on the last scoring loop. And the thing is, it was very close. Watching it live, the way they showed it on the camera angles, I think I actually yelled, Junior has won this race. And the thing is, they showed the replay, they showed the caution lights. And the thing is, while the angles aren't exactly that great, I would have appreciated a flyover. I think it's probably the best way to see it. But the thing is, apparently Logano was just barely out ahead. But if it had been a couple yards later, it would have been Dale Jr. So the thing is, Logano wins the race. He gets booed. He actually gets beer bombed, which I have not seen that since the days of Jeff Gordon winning. And his last 2 Talladega races, his last 2 Talladega wins came in both 2007 races. I think fans did that because of the news that Logano has been. Remember, him and Matt Kenseth made contact in the late stages of the Kansas race. Logano goes on to win. And the thing is, with the race ending on the caution, and how much Logano was sort of being hated, it made fans hate him even more. And to me, I think that I think there is going to be quite a bit of publicity towards NASCAR after this race, if there isn't already. But to me, I don't really think there's going to be a whole lot of good publicity from news outlets and especially the fans. Because the thing is, like, NASCAR wants to create headlines. The thing is, NASCAR does not want to create headlines that make the sport look bad. You want to create good headlines, like exciting race, not a race, not headlines that have things like fans like booing NASCAR's decisions or anything like that. And the thing is, I think the people who run NASCAR should think about that a little bit more, because to me, I think that's probably going to happen. I did not read any of the Facebook comments or any posts on Reddit, and I'm probably not going to do it anyway because I don't want to immerse myself into a world of negativity. But the thing is, I'm sure there's going to be just a lot of negativity as opposed to a lot of positivity. But the thing is, like, who could exactly blame the fans for being so negative? So I guess to sort of like recap, a race that for the most part up until the end I thought was pretty intense, exciting, heart pounding, and the thing is, a race that could have ended this, but unfortunately it didn't, and it ended up like that. Like I said, I would have loved, or in case I didn't say it already, I would have loved to have seen a caution-free race, and I would have loved to seen Great Beautiful win using that incredibly risky strategy. The thing is, it did not happen, and the thing is, now the contender round is over. And the thing is, I don't know how much this is going to lead into the next race at Martinsville, and I guess bringing that up, we should get into who made the who are the 8 drivers. So Logano sweeps the contender round and becomes the first driver to sweep a round, and this is not counting Harvick winning the one race championship way at Homestead last year. And the thing is, Logano, I think Logano is going to enter the eliminator round as the favorite, just because of his 3 wins. He actually now has 6 wins, which is more than any other driver of the season. 20 top 5s, 26 top 10s. If he can finish in the top 10 in the next 4 races, he will tie Jeff Gordon's record in the modern era as most top 10s in a season, 30. And the thing is, the thing is, all 8 of the drivers are tied. Logano, Edwards, Gordon, Busch, Kurt Busch, Matt Keselowski, Mark Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch. The thing is, we do have some pretty interesting stories. We have Logano, who has the most wins. We have Kevin Harvick, who has led the most laps by a mile. We have the underdog, Mark Truex Jr., who's very quiet. We have Brett Keselowski, who I think also has been pretty quiet. We have Carl Edwards, first season of a new team. Kyle Busch, whether you like him and whether you like him in the chase or not, it's definitely a pretty incredible story. After missing the first 11 races because of a crash, he's been able to win 4 times. And then last but not least, wait a second, I'm not done. We have Kurt Busch, definitely having a much better season than the one he had last season. This is the farthest he's ever been, and was actually the very first champion under the chase, 2004. And then last but not least, we have Jeff Gordon. Once again, the only Hendrick car in the final 8. He was in this exact same position last season. The thing is, what makes this season a little different is just the fact that, like, Gordon, like, Ryan Newman got eliminated along with Hamlin, Jr., and Kenseth. But the thing is, there was definitely, I think, quite a bit of talk about, like, who could be this season's Ryan Newman. So while Ryan Newman is not going to win the championship, Jeff Gordon, I think, is this season's Ryan Newman. Jeff Gordon has 0 wins and only 4 top 5s, 17 top 10s. So the thing is, he hasn't really had, like, and the thing is, I think that maybe statistically, this could I think this is probably, I think probably in at least maybe his top 5 worst seasons ever, based on what is now 32 races at the least. And the thing is, Gordon, who I actually did not think was going to make it this far anyway in the first place, he now actually has a pretty good shot. But then again, I think this top 8. Top 8, I think they could be pretty good at maybe any track, especially. And the thing is, next week is Martinsville, and then the 2 races after that, Texas and Phoenix, which I'll actually be attending, and to watch Jeff Gordon race there for the final time. And the thing is, who has the momentum entering Martinsville? Obviously, Logano. He hasn't won there. He hasn't won there in his pickup car. He won the truck race back in the spring, so I think Logano could definitely do it. And to me, who knows? Martinsville might be Jeff Gordon's last best chance to win the race. Had he not been penalized back in April or March, I think Jeff Gordon probably would have won the race. But the thing is, Martinsville, even though I think Martinsville is probably a polar opposite compared to Talladega, I think things are still going to be as wild and intense. Last season proved that, and because Martinsville is really not anywhere near an aero-sensitive racetrack, I think we could be in for a pretty good show. And the thing is, I guess it's going to be probably one of my last notes, and I guess before I conclude, I might as well give a shout out to some of the drivers that got some good finishes. Paul Menard finished 6th, possibly his best career finish of the season. I might be wrong in that. Clem Boyer finished 8th, led a couple laps. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a driver who really is not known for getting a whole lot of top 10s, and there are rumors out there that Stenhouse Jr. could lose his ride and be replaced by Chris Buescher. It was definitely a good finish for him. And I might as well highlight at least one more driver. How about Michael Waltrip, driving for, I think, Premium Motorsports? He gets a 13th place finish. Definitely his best finish of the season. And probably Premium Motorsports, probably their best finish ever. Stayed out of trouble, and actually led at least a couple laps during a cycle like pit stops. And I guess that's kind of all I need to mention. Were there any drivers that I think definitely disappoint me? I think Hamlin was probably the most disappointing of them all. But then again, unfortunately, they just had unfortunate issues, and yeah. So the thing is, heading, like I said, we're heading next week to Martinsville. It's gonna be interesting to see how maybe in terms of like ratings or like TV ratings and other stuff, how this race might affect it, because I think it could have a negative effect on NASCAR in the future. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this race review. Like I said in the beginning, it's not exactly the way I did it this time is a little different than what I usually do it, but I hope you still enjoyed it. And depending on how next week goes, I'm either going to do my race reviews more like this, or I'm going to return to the way I usually do it. But that's pretty much it. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and bye.